In today's video blog, I'm going to share with you one of the biggest spiritual events of my life that has completely shaped who I am and the type of work that I do today. It was years ago. I was in my master's program at Pacifica Graduate Institute studying to be a marriage and family therapist in Santa Barbara, California. And we have these really long classes, and so I started to get a migraine. We were sitting in class all day, and I went to go sit on the grass with a friend of mine who's a body worker and masseuse, and he could tell I was getting a migraine, so he's like, "Do you want me to rub your neck?" And I was like, "That'd be great." And then as he started to rub my neck, I started to go into a trance. And I had been meditating a bunch at that time in my meditation school, so I had had light trances before, but this one felt really different. My head actually started kind of moving like this, and I started seeing flashing lights, which is kind of like that REM situation where your eyelids are doing this thing. And he was like, "Wow, you're going into trance, so I'm gonna bring you back in a safe room," and I completely trusted him. He brought me in this back room, and he held space for me as I went into this huge meditative, mystical, trance-like experience. I ended up, a lot of things happened, but at one point in the trance, I ended up flying out of my physical body as consciousness and hovering above my body. And I could literally look down and see my face, the creases of my face, my clothing, and it was a total trip because I was shocked that I was existing outside of my physical body. And then I had this realization, I am going to go on and survive after my physical body doesn't, because here I am outside of the body. And that freaked me out a little bit. And then I could feel this loving presence behind me, slowly pulling me back up. And as I went up and up and up, I felt this love, this unconditional bliss love behind me that's indescribable. And I merged with that energy, and it was my soul. I turned around and saw her as an entity. She was like, "I am your soul." And it was the oldest, most loving friend that you're coming back to. And she started to give me these downloads about who I was before I knew myself as Eliza Romeo in this physical lifetime. She started to show me how I picked Eliza Romeo, my family, and the position of where I came down on planet Earth and all these things to serve my path in this lifetime, my path that was ultimately serving my soul in a certain way. And she started to show me how we all have these souls that we forget about. It's like we take the forgetting pill when we come down into the matrix. We come down and we forget our past lifetimes, we forget who we are outside of this identity, and we start to become programmed in our family and culture, and which is necessary. But the shocking thing to me was that there's a part of me that's existing all the time outside of this ego reality that's lovingly watching over my entire life and orchestrating every event in it, and your life too. So after I came back, I could then see people's souls above their body, and actually was having direct telepathic communication with their soul. It was like something burst between my ego and my soul where I could feel the soul world. And so it's part of my mission that I was shown that day is to help remind people of why they came to planet Earth. It's fantastic and beautiful and crazy and literally mind-blowing, the reality that you are an energy outside of your identity of yourself that had to work so hard, that had to direct your energy to incarnate, which means to come down basically from energy form, and then went down into the little egg of your mother to then create and be the energy behind this beautiful physical being that you are today. So the call to action today is to really start to become aware of that energy. Start to get curious about who are you outside of your idea of who you are. And one of the best ways to do that is to start to learn to be still and be quiet and to feel into your heart and to feel who are you between your thoughts. Who are you as an energy? And that might sound, I don't know if that sounds simple or hard, but it's kind of both. Adyashanti has this beautiful phrase. It's something like, becoming enlightened is just like stopping your bullshit, being able to stop bullshitting yourself. But that's a hard thing to do in this society because there's a lot of bullshit. So the call is to give yourself some time, 5 minutes a day, to go in and just sit with that question, who am I outside of these thoughts? Who is the energy that pre-created me, who was here before this lifetime? And once you start doing that, your whole life becomes ridiculously amazing and beautiful because you're connecting to the reasons that you came here in the first place. So it doesn't mean you'll never have pain again, doesn't mean you'll never have like suffering in any way, but it does mean you'll understand the meaning to all of it. And there's such a joy and peace that comes with that. So I wish you many blessings on your soul path and tons of devotion and inspiration and support on you remembering who you are. I start to see bright lights flashing like a strobe light. I feel my eyelids fluttering like they do in REM sleep when you're dreaming. I begin to see rapid, vivid visual pictures. Without warning, my consciousness, myself, the place I'm thinking from, knowing myself as, suddenly flies out of my physical body and hovers 2 feet above me. I stare with wonder at the creases on my face, the lines on my eyelids. I watch my chest contract and expand. I see the turquoise t-shirt I'm wearing, but I'm not seeing it from my eyes, but looking down above my body. I feel a loving presence behind me, pulling me up, 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 welcoming back into this magnetic force, this beautiful, exquisite, and intelligent love pulsing all around and within me, welcoming me back home. And I have an epiphany that's changed my life forever. I am not my body. In grad school, after a lecture, I went outside to sit on the cool grass with the other students at lunch. My palms went cold. I felt nauseous. The sunlight raining down on me begins to strobe, the onset of a migraine. A caring friend ushered me into the small room out of the blinding sunshine. I then proceeded to enter into this drug-free, altered state where my consciousness left my body. The experience left me baffled. I grew up in an analytical, rational family. I never considered myself a spiritual person. Suddenly, in less than 5 minutes, my paradigm of how the world worked vanished. Up to that moment, I had devoted my life to my academic studies, an emerging practice as a Jungian psychotherapist, interpreting dreams with talk therapy. After this experience, I continued on with my practice, but secretly I also began to bring into my sessions this new understanding of who we actually are. After this experience, I could literally feel and see the soul energy around my clients. I could feel in my body when my client was speaking connected to their soul or separated and constricted from fear. The soul energy is that always loving, still small voice that wants to inform the personality and guide the ego self back in a practical way to their true nature here on the planet. Besides focusing on the health and functioning of the personality, I was also focused on the reasons the spirit of the client came to the planet and what they most deeply wanted to serve here. I assist in lining their life up with that aim and intent. I was amazed to see how healing this was. My clients began feeling more alive, purposeful, and connected. I realized I didn't have a choice. I knew what I had to do. In his book, The Soul's Code, archetypal psychologist James Hillman introduced us to this idea of the acorn theory. Derived from Plato, the theory rests on the hypothesis that we all have an inner soul guide and voice, the daemon, pulling us towards our unique greatness. As the acorn holds the entire pattern of a grown magnificent oak tree in its small compact shell, we also have the blueprint from our soul contained within each of us, guiding and calling to us. When fully actualized, one can look back and see the clues along the way where life and our soul were conspiring to bring us to our greatest self. Instead of only viewing us as nature, like biological factors, or nurture, like upbringing, we are subject to a third formless ingredient, soul. I remembered meeting my son when he was first born. At 2 minutes old, I experienced his strong and unique personality. Where did he come from? Instead of this idea we come into the world as a blank slate, a tabula rasa, the acorn theory proposes we enter the world with our own secret language hidden between the cover of our lives. Our spiritual task is to decode our soul's language and become fluent in what our soul has to say. If we prioritize, protect, and preserve the specific nature of our being, we stand courageously and honor soul. Far from being narcissistic or self-involved, soul devotion is the most selfless thing we can do. We give the world what we came here to give. We get out of our own way and trust the energy between the heartbeats, surrender to the force that pumps our blood, and connect to the internal pre-existing wisdom that divides our cells. As Joseph Campbell said, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. Thank you.
Οι νέοι θέλουν να βρουν τον εαυτό τους, αλλά ποτέ δεν διδάχθηκαν τι είναι ο εαυτός. Τον συγχαίουν με την απόσταση από τους γονείς τους, με τη σεξουαλική απόλαυση, με την ελευθερία να ακολουθούν τα γούστα τους, με την ταύτιση με παρέες ή ιδεολογίες. Οι μεγάλοι δεν θέλουν πια να βρουν τον εαυτό τους. Εκεί το άγχος είναι πώς η ζωή να λειτουργήσει, πώς να σταθείς όρθιος, πώς να αποσοβήσεις την υπερβολική λύπη. Και μέσα σε ένα περιβάλλον στεγνό από αιώνιους χυμούς, όπου τα συναισθήματα και οι ελπίδες πεθαίνουν, όπου το κάθε τι είναι παροδικό και οδεύει προς την κούραση και τη λήξη του, νομίζω μόνο τα βαθιά λόγια εκείνων που βρήκαν τον εαυτό τους περιέχουν ό,τι θρέφει, λυκαίνει και οδηγεί. Τα λόγια αυτά περιέχουν την ισορροπία εκείνη που σε εμπνέει για να αισθανθείς πόση απόσταση και πόση εγκύτητα πρέπει να έχεις προς τους άλλους, τι σε συνδέει και τι σε χωρίζει από αυτούς, τι σε συνδέει με ένα ουσιώδες πεπρωμένο, τι σε χωρίζει από την εγγενή σου αναξιότητα και περιορισμένη φύση. Τα λόγια αυτά αντανακλούν όχι τα αυθαίρετα συναισθήματα, μα μια βαθύτερη ψυχοπνευματική κρίση και σου έρχονται σαν σανίδα σωτηρίας μέσα στην ταραγμένη θάλασσα της υποτέλειας στις συναισθηματικές διαθέσεις. Πού μαθαίνουμε να ακούμε μια βαθύτερη φωνή? Πού μαθαίνουμε να κάνουμε κράτη όταν θυμώνουμε? Πού μαθαίνουμε να είμαστε άνθρωποι ακόμα και όταν αισθανόμαστε δαίμονες? Πού μαθαίνουμε να πορευόμαστε με την αυτοπεποίθηση που μας δίνει η γνώση πως ο εαυτός μας αρκεί?